Okay, today is March 30th. Been making some progress, but also run into some problems. I was kind of looking down along the sides here, seeing how fair these lines were. And I had a rather serious problem with this one here. It was down, this one here, oops, let's see here. This one here was too low. And I could tell that, you know, when I got this one in, I could tell that the one before was bad. Now the rest of these aren't too bad. I mean, they certainly aren't perfect. I don't know why they aren't. And maybe it's just the fact that, you know, this boat was never done in CAD, so some of these measurements were relied upon with him drafting them on paper and with a pencil, because you can see like this one here is a little shy, and that one's a little proud, and that one's a little proud. You know, I don't know, because I'm pretty sure you know, in fact I went through and double checked these. Now anyway, so what happened here with this one, number 4 or 30, what is that, 36? 34, frame 34 here. And you can see I had to pull it up off the bearding line quite a bit. Pretty much exactly 1.5 inches. So I spent considerable time last night debating on what happened there and what happened up here. You can see the one before it is short of the raised shear. Yeah, what the hell happened there? So I thought maybe I had a frame mislabeled, the wrong number on it or something, but so I went through and I measured all these to make sure they were all where they were supposed to be, width-wise. It's kind of hard to do the vertical measurements with them up here like this. You know, you'd have to get a straight edge across, you know, from 2 points and then measure up, and that's just hard to do. So to make sure these frames are the right size, they're all a little bit different width. So I was measuring the center line distances here versus my plans, and you know, I wrote everything down here as I was doing it. And then here was these 3 frames, 34, 36, and 38. And I was checking all these measurements out to make sure I had them in the right place and that they were the right width at least. And they were. So, and the frames are all in the right position, so that wasn't the problem. So the next thing I started checking was, well, this one here, was it 36? That's short up here. Started checking on that, and what I found was, here's number 36, and there's my measurements, 90 1/4. It was supposed to be 96 1/4. My guess is what happened here is I did the math on a piece of paper, and I couldn't read my own writing, and I saw a 6 and it looked like a 0, and so I recorded it as 90 1/4 instead of 96. Yeah, but that's the way it goes. I'll be able to add on to that, so that one isn't a big deal. Everything else is fine. It's just that top raised shear piece is a little bit short, so that won't be a real big deal to fix. Now this other one though, 34 is it? That's a different story. And so once I figured out that all these frames were actually in the right place and they were more or less the right sizes, I figured out what was wrong with that 36, and then 34, what was the deal with this one. Now it's 2 separate problems. This one, it's off 1.5 inches, exactly 1.5 inches at the keel line there. So what happened was I put my block on the framing table on the wrong side of the line down here. So everything got moved down 1.5 inches. See, if I put this block on the wrong side, which you can actually see there's a couple of holes here, I did, hopefully just once. because that block would have been here and that wasn't right. So anyway, so that moved the whole thing down 1.5 inches. Yeah, it brought this end tip right down to here. Anyway, so we're 1.5 inches off. Now the side ones, evidently the width is all right. So evidently I got it okay on the sides, but the bottom one I must have gotten off. So what I did was I took that, and that's the longest floor timber in the whole frickin' boat, 9 feet long. So I had to take that back out, and you can see it's out now. And I went ahead and plugged all these holes that I drilled through. I got wooden dowels glued in there now, letting that glue dry. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut a piece to fit in down here to bring this back out to the proper. And it's going to have to be tapered, tapered from. It's going to have to be 1.5 inches there, and then tapered to nothing up here. But I think that'll be all right. And then I'm going to have to cut 1.5 inches off at the top, because it moved the top up 1.5 inches then. And you can see that, from that piece I got just laying on top there, it should more or less follow from one to the next. And it's pushing up 1.5 inches right there. The very last one, so that means that one's about 1.5 inches too high. So I'm just making some extra work for myself, but in the end it's not that big a deal. Here's my first floor timber in the engine, the start of the engine room finished. And another problem. This is something you'd think George would have mentioned in his plans, but he doesn't. This shaft isn't going to fit in here. I'm going to have to notch this out and probably cut that bolt off a little shallower. Not a huge deal, but I don't know. I guess I should have thought of that ahead of time, right? Yeah. Not having done anything quite like this before, it's hard to think of all these things in advance. But I was moving along relatively quickly. Relatively quickly. I was getting a frame up a day, and now that I'm onto the section here, the middle part of the keel, which is lower, I think I would have been even moving faster, or just easily gotten one a day done. But now I'm going to have to fix this frame here, and I could keep on going with the other ones, but frankly I'm getting pretty stiff and sore and beat up. I might need a little bit of a slowdown from some of this heavy lifting that I've been doing. Oh yeah, sit down for a little bit, because it is getting a little, starting to wear on my 60-year-old body. But I don't know, and George doesn't give a whole lot of information on framing these things, or adjusting these frames or whatever. He says it'll all need trimming, the chine and the bilge stringers and stuff will all need trimming. And yeah, I can see that a little more than maybe I anticipated, but it's going to be a lot of work. I'm pretty sure that hand planer is going to pay for itself real quickly. But it's starting to give me an idea what things are going to look like when we're all done. Anyway, that's my problem that I'm running into so far, and pay closer attention when you're building stuff, putting stuff together, I guess, to make sure everything is right, which I thought I was, but I was double and triple checking things in most cases. But anyway, we'll keep forging forward.